Hello. Okay, so I'm live, I think. Um, Let me check it. Yes, we are live, but the title is wrong. Now I see. This is the number 12. Yes, number 12. Okay. So, hello, it's me today, Shimon. From Prognetics, and today I want to present the pull request about RabbitMQ plugin. So I prepared a brief description about plugin, and today I want to go file by file with you and describe the code I wrote for last, I think, 2 months. And yes, and let's see. Maybe let's begin from this page. We have a brief description, and I listed here, I think, the most important things that contains this PR. And SAGA model. What is the SAGA model here? Yeah, it's the definition of the transactions. So it's the developer who won't use our library need to provide us the definition of the transactions that we want to handle. Yeah, and this is just a list of some steps. Each transaction is some steps, and each steps is the input message and output message. For example, input message can be the account has been created. So the next message will be, for example, add to the queue or something like that. And those steps are those two messages are the two parts of our step, and these steps and a few steps will be our whole transaction, or several steps. Yeah, so this is a SAGA model, RabbitMQ SAGA host. It's the our Test. Okay. Sorry, I have some issues with OBS. Uh, I don't know why sometimes my headphones are disconnecting and uh, dis- and hmm, we will see if this happen next time. I'll try to uh, fast change my micro setup. But let's move on. RabbitMQ Saga host. It's the main part. It's the uh, main entry point um, for our plugin. This uses some services that provide the queues declarations. There's some factories that provide and creates the consumers, and this glue everything together, and you can run your Saga by this host. And here we have RabbitMQ Consumers Factory, so it's the piece of code that creates consumers, which is basically the definition of the that contains arguments for our queue declarations in the RabbitMQ framework, and you will see soon how it works. And queues provider, it simply read the queues data uh, from the definitions from our Saga model and create some models to create declarations and bindings, to do declarations and bindings for our RabbitMQ channel. Okay, so let's go to the file changed. It's the 41 files, not few, but not so a lot. So the first file is just upgrade the .NET version. Maybe it's not the right place. Maybe it's not. It shouldn't be in this plugin, but I fixed it here, and let's keep it here. Okay, and here we have the main change. The very important change. I changed the name. I'm sure that I mentioned earlier this in the previous stream, but now you can see in my PR that I changed the iSaga queue to the iSaga orchestrator. I think that it's better name for this, and this orchestrator can push and can get the Saga subscribers that um, this subscriber will get notifications about messages, and mm, you can then do something with this message. In our case, we will send the message to the RabbitMQ queue. Okay, so iSaga subscriber, it's the interface I mentioned here. Well, it's simply interface that have the queue name and message. It's very similar to input to our push um, method, but the input output message has a slightly different structure. We'll look into later. Yeah, and it's also uh, uh, can be asynchronous. It returns tasks. Okay, so what we have here, if, and this part is the orchestrator part, so it's not the most important part of this PR. It's because I had to do some work to during this RabbitMQ plugin work because mm, because have to I had to work on something else on orchestrator. To be honest, we should work first on orchestrator fully, and then we should do orchestrate plugins. Yeah, because plugin or let's say extensions or something like that, it should be built on something existing as it's just an extension or plugin. But okay, our bad. So I created some things that are, let's say, draft, and we will work more on it in the future pull requests. It will be about the orchestrator. So probably it will, this will be this orchestrator will be the topic that we will explore in the future streams. But for now, some interfaces and basic structures. So input messages um, is like that. It has a transaction ID, payload, and compensation. I removed the name because I think it's not needed. I mean, name is important when we want to redirect those messages. So uh, Q name are here and in iSaga subscriber, but I think we don't need input messages here. It should be uh, treated separately. Why we want to pass this in addition into the message? I think it's not needed, and has and it has only drawbacks, uh, not pluses. Yes, positive or how to say it. Good points. It doesn't have any. So I got rid the name, and we have just transaction ID, payload, and compensation. And queue name is next to messages when we want to communicate with SAGA orchestrator. So move on the output message. Similarly, I got rid of name, so we have only transaction ID and object payload. As you can see, here we have a string. It was the bug. It should be the object. Maybe string later, but now it should be object. It maybe more convenient way have this like that. Okay, and what we have next, SAGA model, and yeah. So this SAGA model, I mentioned about it. As you can see now, it's the list of transaction, and we have a SAGA transaction model which has some steps, and each steps it's from it's the name of the message from we want to um, invoke the step of transaction, and it, two, it's the our product of our um, processing these steps, processing from message. So now we want to process message, which is uh, have, with name from, and we want to transit to the to message. And this is our step, and collection of steps is the transaction, and our SAGA model has multiple transactions. Okay. Can you hear me? Yes, you can hear me. I'm glad. Okay, so go next. What we have, this is SAGA model builder. It's the class that provide the convenient way to build this model in the let's say how to say it, fluent manner. And yeah, uh, so I can show you how you can use it in the tests. I built some models, and I think it's very convenient. We just uh, adding transaction, and in the lambda we invoking the builder dot, and we can add some steps. It's just string from, string to, so it's very simple and very convenient way, and we can just build it. Okay, so what's next? And this is SAGA Orchestrator, and it's not the final version, it's the, let's say, draft version, and it looks for now, for our plugin purpose, this simply just mm, mm, getting from the constructor the model and creates this dictionary that has one string, it's from part of step, and this is to part of step. So let's say this, it's the input message, this is the output message, I mean names of these messages, and when client pushes some message to our orchestrator, we try and get the let's say next step. I mean the name of the output message, and if we have such a row in our dictionary, then we get in the next step and we creating the output message with the same transaction ID. If the transaction ID is not set, then we create the new one. As I mentioned, it's only draft, so it will change. It will not generate probably ID in this way, and we pass the payload. Of course, it doesn't have any handling the errors, handling the you know input messages, output messages, and fail message when something went wrong. It doesn't have yet, but it will. It will when we will build the orchestrator in the next um, streams. Yes, and the method subscribe that we can pass SAGA subscriber that will and when we push something, we notify the SAGA subscriber message that with something that we have the output message. So this is the first version, and it's only for testing the our plugin. Um, this is builder. Maybe it's even not needed, but for now, let's keep it. Okay, and here we have some tests, I believe, but we rather want to start with the actual implementation. Yeah, because so let's move to the RabbitMQ implementation, and a test will be reviewed after our implementation. So as you can see, I have a few directories. I will start with the hosting. It's the and the RabbitMQ SAGA host. As I mentioned, it's the most important um, file in this plugin because it uses a few services that and glue everything together. This class is responsible for queue declaration, queue binding if exchange our exchange exists. It creating creates the consumers by invoking the consumers factory, and these consumers are registered um, here in the loop, and we also create here the SAGA subscriber and pass it into our orchestrator, and then our SAGA orchestrator is ready to use. It's already started. Uh, Here we have two methods for on shutdown handler and on exception handler. Right now it's just logging messages about shutdown and exception, and we have here dispose method with that close the connection and channel. Okay, so as you can see, and we have we are responsible here for creating the connection between our orchestrator and RabbitMQ um, service. And here we have RabbitMQ SAGA host builder, uh, and it has a method build that creates our iRabbitMQ SAGA host, and it creates our mSAGA host, and we can set our options and logger, and if we don't pass anything, then the default one will be used. So null logger in context of logger, and the options will be default options. So yes, and what we have more here, and okay, this is the CS approach. It's maybe not important, but it has item group and with assembly attribute that uh, provide us the access to the internals from the unit test, integration test. Yes, and now, and here we have RabbitMQ SAGA serializer because we want to process somehow our messages. And right now it's a RabbitMQ serializer, but maybe it will be generalized somehow. I mean, it can be generic. It's RabbitMQ is not the exception. I mean, we probably will want to serialize messages from JSON and deserialize from JSON and serialize to JSON from other queues, but for now it's RabbitMQ Saga JSON serializer, and it uses the JSON serializer, which is Microsoft library. It's in the standard. So nothing complex here. Is serialize and getting bytes from encoding UTF-8, and the it's inverted right here. We're getting string from span of message bytes, and message string is serialized. And then we have a message. Next thing is a RabbitMQ Saga subscriber factory. That is the interface. Let's go to the Saga subscriber, and Saga subscriber in this case is very simple. It will receive the notification from the orchestrator that the Outlook message appeared, and you should send it into this queue. So we are using serializer. We will we were looked into earlier, and getting the message bytes, and just doing the basic publish from our model. Our model is the model from the passed by the orchestrator. Now I see that maybe I should implement here the dispose method. Okay, so let's oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, I think that it could be important because we have iModel, which is iDisposable. I know that's orchestrator all this, but maybe we should take the possibility to dispose it as well. Okay, so let's move on. And here we have the subscriber factory, and where's the order? But okay, so we will have to go up, and this simply returns the subscriber. Okay, so it's just to have the something that will uh, create our subscriber based only on model, and serialize and options are injected by the constructor. So if we use dependency injection, it's a more convenient way to create the Rabbit this subscriber. Okay, okay, we should go up because I missed a lot of files. I don't know how, but okay. So I mentioned about RabbitMQ SAGA host, and here we have a background service. Here, RabbitMQ SAGA host is created by using the builder. As you can see, I use the options interface is which is widely used in the .NET world, and this is background service. This implements background service. It's the hosted service for our .NET framework, ASP.NET framework. Um, and yeah, we just in constructor we build the RabbitMQ SAGA hosts in the execute async, starting it and returning the completed task. In the dispose method, we are disposing the host. So it's the wrapper for our SAGA host. Yeah, and it's wrapper for our .NET framework if we want to use this in a different way, then we can use this RabbitMQ SAGA host builder and wrap it differently for example, different DI framework, something like that. And that's why I created the SAGA host, not do everything in the background service. Okay, so what next? Here we have the interface for our builder, and here we have the consumer factory, consumers. So it creates the collection of consumers, and the RabbitMQ consumer is the definition for our SAGA host to pass this data to the method. As I remember, it was the basic consume. Let's see. Here we have the basic consume, and we use this RabbitMQ SAGA consumers factory to get the consumers, and we iterate through this consumers collection to register each consumer to the channel. And yeah, so we do it based on the transaction from SAGA model. We're selecting the steps, and then we passing the recuse and basic consumer. More features like auto acknowledge, consumer tag, no local exclusive, and so on are also here, but for now queue and basic consumer are in the field, and other things are default. Next we have consumer factory, so we create here this consumer and we pass it here to RabbitMQ consumer, which model for our hosting service, and this consumer have the callback when we receive the message from the RabbitMQ, and we have two versions right now. It looks like that because this only have a dispatch consumer async um, option in our options. So now it's like if maybe if the building the consumer will be more complex, then we can consider something like builder or something like that. But for now, let's just use here the async method or not async method, so sync. And are very similar, but here we have get away that get results, and here we have we just awaiting this push of the SAGA queue. And this SAGA queue is of course SAGA orchestrator, but I forgot to rename this. So as you can see, we can fix it now. Okay, so and the callback looks like that. We deserializing the body using the serializer I mentioned earlier. If input message is null, then we should return from the callback because message is empty. Why we don't want to process it? I think maybe this will be maybe even not possible for our cases, but I think it's the right behavior. We can log something here, but for now I think it's sufficient. And yeah, we in this piece of code we're pushing the our input message to the orchestrator using routing key. Our routing key is it's the same as the queue name. It's defined in SAGA orchestrator. I can show you. So SAGA orchestrator here, and as you can see, when we declaring the queue, when we bind the queue and when we have the exchange, then we're passing the queue name. If we don't have, if we use the default one, I mean the default exchange, then the routing key is as default is the queue name. Maybe even if I pass here the empty string, this will be the queue name. But let's do it explicitly. Better, I think. Okay, so this was the RabbitMQ Saga Consumer Factory. And here we have our consumer. It's used for registering the consumer in our RabbitMQ channel. We have the name of the queue and some options we can pass, and it has a default value. So the most important thing here is the queue, the required. It also required is basic consumer for our RabbitMQ client. And here we have some interfaces for RabbitMQ Saga Consumer Factory and Consumers Factory. Here we have RabbitMQ Saga options. It's the options for our plugin where we want to find the RabbitMQ, what content type we want to use. Based on this content type, we will choose the serializer. Right now, it's only application/JSON, so we use only JSON serializer. And in the future work, we can extend the collection of serializer, but for now this content time is enough. Uh, exchange in default exchange is empty, and async dispatch consumer async and it means do we want to use the async consumer or not, and the default is true. Okay, and RabbitMQ SAGA queues provider. This is the class that based on SAGA model. Uh, this returns the RabbitMQ models as a collection because it's the definitions of the queues, and based on these definitions, we registering and declare binding the queues. So as you can see here, we have the queues provider here, and we get in the exchange, and also we have here queues provider, and for each queue, for each model, we declare the queue, and we bind the queue if exchange exists. And yeah, and so this information is returned from our queues provider. RabbitMQ SAGA queues provider maybe a RabbitMQ SAGA queues definition provider. Maybe it will be more accurate, but let's keep this name. And yes, we use SAGA model, our list of transactions, and we get in each steps aggregating into the one collection to register each step as RabbitMQ model. What's next? This is RabbitMQ model. It has some default value as well as the consumer's model. Here we have name, which is required. Exchange is not required and has the empty default value. Durable as false, exclusive as false, and auto delete as false, and arguments as empty dictionary. What next? Here we have the very simple connection factory, which based on the options we passed from the constructor, we create the iConnection. This interface is from the RabbitMQ client library of .NET. So here you can see that we use the connection string from the options, creating the new URI, and also we using this switch dispatch consumer async to say mm, to notify the connection factory that we want to use async consumers, and then our connection factory with the connection. Maybe it's not needed, but I think that uh, this factory actually is very important for test purposes to mock this creation of the connection, and so it's very convenient to testing for testing purposes. Yeah, and then next we have two interfaces: RabbitMQ connection factory and RabbitMQ SAGA provider exchange queues, and here we have just method create. Okay, so what is next? Next we have some tests. So let's go up and go fast, maybe with the unit test, because it's the unit test. So as you can see here, we have the mock. I do some mocking with substitute and substitute, and I'm mocking all the services I use in the um, our test. And we have two tests. Here we have the checking that our hosting is correctly configured. So we're checking that the queues declare, queues bind, a basic consume, received the correct times the call of these methods. And I don't know why it's formatted like that in this PR. I'm pretty sure that looks um, good here. Let's see. Yeah, yeah, it's so formatting, and GitHub has maybe some problems formatting. So here we create the hosting with the default exchange, which is empty, and here we have the case when the exchange is set. And then we also want to receive the queue count of the call of queue bind. And as you can see, everything is green. When we review all this test, then we run it again to show you that I I will I will run it again to uh, show you that everything is correct. Yes, and here we have two tests for our host, and I think the most important tests are the integration test, um, um, because it checks our connection with RabbitMQ, and this is the most important part of this library, because we will just bypass messages from the RabbitMQ to our orchestrator, so it's like maybe middleware. So there is not a lot of logic here. We should rather focus on connection between the RabbitMQ and our orchestrator. That's why I created more integration tests than unit tests. Unit tests will be very important in the orchestrator with the algorithm for our that will handle our transaction and something like that. Here we want to mainly check the connection between RabbitMQ and orchestrator library. Okay, so that's why we created here the host builder with the RabbitMQ SAGA host builder, as we use it in the our background service. Yeah, and we, as you can see, we don't have any mocks here. We just use the host builder as we want to use in the normal application, regular application. Yeah, so what we have test here, background service is very similar. Okay, we have a background service here. Let's start with the host, not background service. Yep. Okay, so we have our host builder with options. We can change this option later in the test as well. Here we have validating that message was sent. So we should get the message, appropriate message from the RabbitMQ. So basically, we will uh, send message to the queue, and we want to get back next message. So we have a queue source, a queue target. So we want to transit from the queue source to the queue target message. Here we have our system under test. We have test data, which contains only the string value, and creates the message transaction ID. And we have the input message. We serialize this message using the coding and JSON serializer. Start the suit, and then if we started, then we want to publish our queue source message. Here we have a content, and we expect the result. I created the policy that executes 10 times with the interval of 100 milliseconds. Let's see here. As you can see, I use the library poly. Yeah, so we're handling the results. Um, when x is different than null, and if not, we wait from 10 times 100 milliseconds. Yeah, and we have the result. If the result, we check if the result is not null, because we send the queue source message, we expect the queue target message. So we also deserializing the result body, and then we change it's not null. We change that our message transaction ID is correct, and the payload is the same as the we sent. Okay, next one is the checking what will happen if we send the message in wrong format. So the difference is here, instead of serializing the input message, we just doing the to string. So we have the wrong format, and we expect that result will be null, and the logger will um, log that something went wrong. Yes, and what next? If message is not known, so the message name is not declared in the in SAGA model, then we want to also receive the null result. And when content type is unknown, when we want to build the host, then it should throw during the building this host, and this will throw the not supported exception. And the last one, when our connection string is incorrect, then during our start, the exception should be thrown. And yeah, it, the same tests are in the background service, very similar, but the way of creating the host service is different. So I uh, mm, move it to the another test because it's very similar, but um, essentially it's the different beings. So I could say that let's that the part of the framework. So let's create the separate test for this. And the way of creating this is completely different. Um, and I did the host builder. It's not needed. Yeah. So let's remove this. Let's remove this. Let's remove this. It's not needed. Yeah, and I will push it after our stream. Okay. Yeah, and that's it. That's everything. Let's see if everything will work. Um, let's go to our Docker desktop dashboard to see the containers. So we have two containers, one for the background service and one for the host. It will be very fun that if something went wrong. Okay. So going in parallel, that's why I don't use the same one. The same one channel. And yeah, the unit tests are also passed. So well, it's not important. It's not needed. Here we have everything's good. So what next? What next? What next? I can show you that I also checked in the PR that oh no request that our tests are as this test I show you moment ago are execute on the actions. We have the checks. Let's go to the details and to the test tab, and here we see that the RabbitMQ images, two images are created, and our tests passed. Here we have the unit test, and here we have integration test. 11 tests. Why it's 11, not 12? Okay, we have 6, 5. Okay. Name. Okay, we don't have the one message about wrong format. No, format is correct. Not known, and strong format when connection string, when content type is unknown, and when a valid message was sent, an appropriate message should be fetched. And oh, okay, because we have two cases here. I can do the same here. Maybe it would be better. Okay. Let's pass it our options. X dot change. Yes, exchange. Let's create here string exchange name parameter that is passed here. Maybe do it this way or conventional, and yeah, it should be okay. Let's run. I could run only one test, but okay. Yes, so as you can see, tests are passed, and if you want to, you can, if you have some things, some thoughts about PR, you want to contribute, you want to comment, I encourage you, don't hesitate. Yeah, it would be great if something I can improve in my code. And yeah, let's see where was the first commit. Okay, it's from April, March. So it's more than 1 month. So it's some work, not a lot. It's only 40 files, and some of them are interfaces, almost half of them. So it's not very big PR. And let's go to the our comments. Maybe we can improve it all, now, fix it. How to go to comments? Okay, I go like that. Okay, consider implementing the interface. Okay, so go to the RabbitMQ SAGA subscriber. As you can see, our tests are passed. Mm-hmm. Oh, why it opens here? Okay, can I open it? Go here, please. Okay, something changed. Subscribe here. Okay, so here we have a model, and iModel is iDisposable, as you can see, and it's using here in SAGA Orchestrator. SAGA Orchestrator is should be iDisposable, I think. Disposable, iDisposable. Okay, maybe it's work for subscriber. And then we want to, yes, try disposable. But I wouldn't, I'm not changing anything. But maybe Christoph. Ah, and oh, yes, okay. So maybe I just delete this or not. Cancel. I will keep it. And the second one comment is the rename. Okay, so it's the easy one. Consumer factory. So we have consuming. Fortunately, it's very easy to navigate through this directory. So and here we have the SAGA orchestrator factory. Okay, here. Oh. SAGA orchestrator. Yes. Minor PR changes. Let's push it. Maybe I should comment. Just comment. Done. Of conversation. Yeah. And Krzysztof can go here and reply something and unresolved conversation. So yes, let's see if our checks not fail. And if not, I think we can finish for today. I basically have done what I wanted to. I wanted to show you the pull request. Every class, each class I created. So I think my job is done and I can start with the orchestrator after the PR uh, will merge. Mhm. Let's go to the details. We can see the tests passing live. Okay, so integration test um, finished here. Yeah, everything went correct. Um, so our pull request is ready for a review. Yeah, so if you want to, if you have a time, um, go here, comment the um code you don't like. It would be great, seriously. And maybe Krzysztof will look into it, I hope. And I will finish for today. Thank you for watching, like and subscribe, and see you soon. Bye.